I just want to say thanks for being here. This is Podcrashing, episode number 193, with Jacinda Davis and Kevin Fitzpatrick from Proof. To put this project together for the two of you, my God, first of all, it takes courage, it takes openness, and it takes trust, because you are bringing things forward that the majority of us, we have no clue. We have no clue, but you're starting the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, that was really the goal with this story, right? To start the conversation about this particular case. And I mean, for us, the amazing thing about this story is this was the story that put Jacinda, Susan, and I into a working relationship together. And that has led to lots of other stuff. I mean, the last 3 months, we've been working on stories that have resulted in 3 people getting out of prison.
Emotionally speaking, Jacinda, I mean, I can't see it how you can do this and just keep pushing forward unless the victory is knowing that, okay, we've got 3, we can do 4, we can do this, we can make it happen.
Yeah, I mean, it is emotionally taxing, right? And it's a lot of work, but being there, seeing someone get out of prison who's been wrongfully convicted makes it all worthwhile. It's something I can't put into words. It's hard to describe. Is it a
state-by-state situation? Because here in North Carolina, we're going through it too, and it's like, okay, where did it go wrong?
Yeah, I don't think it's unique to any one state or any one jurisdiction. Mistakes happen, unfortunately. And the cases we cover all happen to fall into the 1990s. Yeah. I don't know if there's something specific about that decade, but it seems like there was a lot of mistakes made during that time period.
Kevin, do you find it interesting how open the law enforcement is with you guys? I mean, it really seems like, I mean, they're coming forward, but you're not meeting all open doors, but there's a lot of doors that are open.
Well, I think the Titus case is particularly unique because the original detectives on the case were the ones who brought it forward in the Michigan Innocence Clinic. And that's the only case that I know of. And the Michigan Innocence Clinic told me the same thing, that it's the only case they've ever received where 2 detectives have brought it forward.
Wow.
I think that this case actually sort of pitted law enforcement against each other. I mean, you had the original detectives that did not believe Jeff Titus was involved, and you had the cold case team that absolutely did believe he was involved. I think that's a very unique perspective where you don't sort of have this blue line where everyone's on the same side. And, I really commend the original detectives. Roy Ballard has passed away, but they were so committed to trying to help get Jeff out of prison. Mm-hmm. And so when we went looking for information, they were more than happy to help. And the cold case team, they were willing to sit down and talk to us and tell us why they thought they got it right. So I think the Titus case is a unique perspective, or unique case where you have different perspectives from police. I don't think that happens all the time. Certainly doesn't happen publicly.
The realism that the two of you put into this is so unlike the Hollywood story. And because we don't get to see the late nights, we don't get to see the conversations or even hear the conversations to even get the conversation started. It's just amazing how you keep it so authentic. And I think what that does, that provides a lot of hope for people out here that want their family members released.
Yeah, I mean, we get a lot of letters and emails and phone calls from people asking us to help. Unfortunately, we can't help everyone, right. But it's certainly something we try to look into, and it is a real-time investigation. If you listen to the podcast, if you listen to Proof, that's one of our goals, is to have people come on the journey with us, as if you're investigating with us in the field. And you're finding out things as we do in real time. And I think that makes it unique.
And isn't that fantastic about podcasting, in the way that we've taken NPR basically and we have made it an everyday conversation? We just grab the podcast and you do take us for that journey.
Yeah, I think I think being in the moment, certainly with the Proof podcast that Susan, Jacinda, and I did, which was sort of a follow-up to this story, I think it takes the listener into the actual moment of the investigation. That's very, very difficult to do. It feels very intimate and you feel like you're on the front lines. And I think listeners are able to decide then what they think is the truth and what isn't as they're listening. I mean, oftentimes if you watch, a TV show or a documentary or, that stuff has been edited. I feel like this stuff feels very authentic and in the moment. And I think people react to that. And I think the Killer in Question TV show, I think that also feels very in the moment. We spent a lot of time on the locations with the people involved in the story, with the police, with the people who were the alibis. And I think that stands out and makes the story feel genuine and authentic.
What happens when the key witness keeps changing their story? That just doesn't seem right. But yet, there are people that still believe the old stories compared to what's, because they always say, if you're living in your past, you're rewriting your history.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know how it works really, but unfortunately, it doesn't carry much weight legally to have a witness recant.
Wow.
So that alone didn't help Jeff. It was a combination of everything, and I think specifically the serial killer evidence that we dug up is what led to his exoneration.
5 exonerations in 6 months. It like we said in the very beginning, this is like the new normal. There's a lot of people on the streets that are helping families, come back together. But what about the stories of when they do come together? It can't be an easy, hey, look, man, everything's cool. Let's get back to living. But it can't be that way. What are you seeing on that level?
Well, I think if everybody tunes in for the updated a broadcast of Killer in Question, which is Friday night on Investigation Discovery, they'll see at the very end, we spend a little time with Jeff.
Good.
And Jeff, he does have a long road ahead. I mean, we'll sort of do a larger update later, but he's reconnecting with his family and he's getting to sort of see some of these people that he hasn't seen in 20 years. And that's going to be a long, difficult road. I mean, this is not something that's going to happen overnight. He needs to rebuild his relationships, even with the people who believed in his innocence. Mm-hmm. They haven't been around him. And, he spent 22 years in a cell.
God.
It's a little different when you can actually walk around in the backyard with your grandkid or with your cousin. And, he's got to start all over again. He's got to get a bank account. He's got to get a driver's license. And he's got to catch up on what's happened in these people's lives for 2 decades. And, he's got a lot of people who are going to help him do it, but that is not going to come overnight. And I'm sure it's going to be a very scary experience for him.
Is it a scary experience for you guys to release this for Investigation Discovery and even for the podcast? Because, you are taking chances and stories are being rewritten because, for 22 years that the community knew that story or they thought they did.
Yeah, one of the things we discover when we're out in the field talking to people is a lot of people actually don't know the facts of the case. They don't know the actual evidence. They know what was reported in the paper, or they know what the rumor around town is, or what their neighbor said. But when you really sit down and talk to people and share what you found with them or answer the questions they may have, it's amazing, what people... how you can, I don't want to say you change people's minds because that's not the point. We're presenting evidence, we're presenting facts, and it's facts that people just didn't know about before. And it's eye-opening.
And I think one of the things about this story specifically, when Jacinda and I went into it, we didn't go into it as it was a wrongful conviction in any way. We went into it knowing that there were some different opinions about some of the facts. And as we started to investigate it, that's when some stuff started to become apparent to us and we learned new information. And so we went into it with a very open perspective. We did not have a skewed perspective as to it's going to be this. And so I think, we do that with every story. If we go down the road and we find that it leads to a certain way, we're going to follow it wherever it leads. We do some stories that we believe are wrongful convictions after we research them and we start them that way. That was not the case with the Jeff Titus story. We were looking at it to see what the facts were. And then it became apparent to us through our investigation what the situation was.
I don't know how you stay so loyal to the quote or the mantra, I never assume anyone is either guilty or innocent, because I'm that guy that'd be, and I know I'm going to do it when I'm watching it. I'm going to go, guilty. Nope, that's wrong. I have no evidence whatsoever to even back up what I'm claiming.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard because a lot of people, there's a quote in the show someone in the show says he just looks guilty.
Oh,
right?
God.
Well, that's not evidence, right? That's not evidence.
I think one of the other things about that, and I will tell you, for having known Jacinda for 20 years, when she says that, she's telling the truth. But I think one of the ways that you do it is that, for this show, Susan and Jacinda were out in the field interviewing people in Kalamazoo County, and they would call me and the three of us would talk. And one of the ways you keep your perspective and not jump to conclusions is you have logical discussions with other intelligent people.
Right.
And I think that's part of the way that you don't sort of jump to conclusions. And that's the basis of what a jury trial is supposed to be.
Wow. You guys have got to come back to this show anytime in the future. I love listening to your commitment to the community. And this is leadership, you two.
Well, thank you. We'll be happy to come back anytime. And I appreciate you having us on. And I want to say that that Jeff would not be free if not for the commitment of Susan and Jacinda.
Oh, my God. You're so right. Well, you guys be brilliant today, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you so much.